It's not bad. Thanks. Evening. Oh, there we go. So welcome. So my apologies for being late. I don't know what Restream was doing. Like every time I was clicking go live, it just said schedule. And I was like, I don't want to schedule. I've already scheduled. I just want to go live. I don't like, we're here, and that's all that matters. So give me 2 seconds while I sort Rumble out because it is not updating over there properly. Just what it's doing it there. I need to. Oh, so stupid. My content. Edit. It won't like sort the titles out. It's like in limbo or something. There we go. Okay, so I am excited to be talking about the things we're going to be talking about. Loads of things have happened, and potentially the Iran war's almost finished. So what do I mean by that? So Trump's just did a thing 10 minutes ago saying that sorry, let me do this. I can't do two things at once. I mean, I can, but not usefully. Okay, there we go. Saying that he's had two really good. Here we go. So Trump talks with Iran went perfectly, could end the conflict. So that more talks had been planned, and that all kind of dropped like a teeny tiny bit a little bit ago. So maybe the whole Iran thing is almost over before the United Kingdom even bothered getting involved in the war. It was all over. It just shows you how quickly things can be done when they're done not funded by somebody who is obsessed with the never-ending war. Okay, so outside of that, the things that we are going to speak about today, I'm very excited. And also, for those of you, I don't know what day. I say day. I don't know when it was. Let me just check. I think it was October last year. I stress tested Grok with regards to a scenario, a civil war scenario. So we've got an update. So I just kind of, with everything that's going on, I thought I'd see how viable the plan would be, how likely it is to maybe come about. So we're going to be talking about Angela Rayner. That woman, they're definitely pushing her for PM. So we're going to be diving into her tax, donors, her absolute lack of any conversation about white working class girls, even though she portrays herself as, you know, a white working class woman, but she doesn't care about the little white working class girls who are being systematically raped, abused, tortured, murdered, all of those things, even though it's on her patch, right? So Angela Rayner is around Manchester. I don't know Manchester boundaries, but she's close, and there's joint statements between her and the Oldham council leader. So she's dodgy as they come. Then we've got the whole meningitis thing, which is interesting. We're going to dive into that just a little bit, because the way that it is being framed is just retarded and pathetic based on the actual realities of what's going on. Some people are so fucking retarded. Sorry, I just got distracted by an idiot responding to one of my comments while I'm trying to read what we're on about. So Berserker, we're talking about the contract, and I've actually got a forensic breakdown of the whole measles thing, which is quite interesting. And then we're going to talk about Starmer just briefly and his retardedness. And then we will move into the timeline, the Birmingham Spark timeline. So first up, Angela Rayner. Really do not like that person at all. Okay, so Angela Rayner. So for those of you who don't know, back in the late 70s, 80s, a union brought down the British government. This so there was the miners' strikes. It just completely brought down the government, right? So that's what happened. So when we had previous Labour MPs backed by unions into power, when the government tries to go against the unions pull them out of power. And that's how we then ended up with Maggie, who just kind of basically told them all to fuck off, right? Fuck off and go back to work, which is why the northern towns hate her, or hated her, probably realised just how she actually wasn't the evil one and they were all being manipulated. So why is that relevant today? Because we're about to see it play out. By that, Angela Rayner is not, in my personal opinion, she is not Prime Minister material. I don't even think she's MP material by the way that she's conducted herself. The fact that she was the housing minister and then she's been investigated for housing fraud, right? So I don't think those two things go together. But she was she brought up in a quite poor home. That doesn't mean you can't be an MP in any way, shape or form. She dropped out of school. She became pregnant early. She ended up getting a job as a carer and joining Unison, the Unison union. Forgot the words. The Unison Union. She married a union officer husband, and she had more children. And she worked her way up in Unison to a quite high rank. So she is fully loyal to Unison. Not necessarily, I mean, she's doing everything that the Labour Party are asking, her entire voting record. Like, she's never really rebelled against them in any way, shape, or form, right? So she's kind of standing out. Like, she's just called it un-British with regards to the immigration policies. I really have no idea how it's un-British to put the British nationals and British ethnic nationals ahead of non-British people, but you know. So she is, in my opinion, really fucking dangerous because it's not her, it's the unions. We would be electing the unions. And we have to bear in mind the unions, it's not the unions aren't for the working people, they're for the public purse. Like I've worked private like all my life. And when I was in retail, we weren't part of a union ever. It used to piss me off every single April when public sector workers were demanding their automatic percentage pay rise, because I never got an automatic percentage pay rise. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, since they put in place the whole minimum wage thing, I know people's wages go up a little bit, but it's not to the same random percentage that public sector workers get. Bearing in mind, it's private people in working privately in private businesses that pay public sector workers. The average, there's about £5,000 difference with regards to public versus private, you know, kind of like normal person level. The private getting more. So private sector workers get more, public sector workers get more already than private sector. They also get better benefits. Pretty much once you're in for life. Like, people go in to public sector and they rarely leave. If they are shit at their jobs, they get promoted. Like, the absolute waste and bloat and just genuine lack of any capacity to be able to do their jobs effectively in the public sector. It is, if you've never interacted with anybody in the public sector, then you need to. Businesses in the real world make money because they are successful, because they have good leaders at the helm. They have people who understand how to run businesses. They have people who, maybe they've got people who know what they're doing, right? So I'm a psychologist, so I know how to do psychology, right? That's not what happens in the public sector. Potentially it does on the front lines. Okay, so, you know, my mum was a nurse for many years in the NHS. She knew her job, right? She was a nurse. The managers didn't have a fucking clue at all. And we see this with the politicians. The politicians who are elected have got no experience in understanding the world, right? And it does mean that anybody can be a politician. But then when you give somebody who's got absolutely no knowledge of understanding how the world works, we end up with somebody like Starmer in office, right? He just rudderless, right? So since McSweeney's gone, since Mandelson, like, everybody's surprised by Mandelson and Epstein, even though it's been over the papers for the last 20 odd years, his involvement in Epstein, right? With Epstein. It's not a new thing. So he's got absolutely no idea what he's doing. And Angela Rayner is worse than that. Right? At least Keir Starmer had a successful career, legal career, was already kind of hobnobbing with the elite, kind of understood like how to play, he understands how to play the game, right? I mean, I say that. He understood how to do what he was told, but he'd been in those circles. Where Angela Rayner has got no... she's, oh, you gotta be really careful. Like, she is low intellectually, right? We should, like, Diane Abbott should not be an MP, right? There are individuals in charge of making decisions that affect the entire country, and it's not like it's like an isolated decision. Like, are we going to, you know, like at the council level, whether we're going to like use the pothole money to do the potholes, or are we going to pretend we got no pothole money and use it for something else and do really dodgy shit for it, right? It's not even like just locally. Like, the decisions they make impact everybody and on the world stage, right? The world is already laughing at us. Just wait until Angela Rayner is in charge. She says that her first child saved her, right? So it saved her from her. She was looking after a mom. You know, she was like I mentioned, she's from a poor home, and that should, like, you know, that doesn't mean you can't go be street smart, you can't kind of like become world smart. But if you ever hear her speak, she just isn't. I mean, she hides it very well if she is. So maybe she is, she's a really good actress and she's just making everybody think she's stupid, and then she's going to dazzle everybody with her intelligence, right? I mean, I don't think that's likely, but it is a possibility. I've never spoken to her. I've just watched her very poor performance, right? So just so you guys know, Parliament, when they stand up and ask a question and then somebody else answers the question, like, none of that's in real time. What I mean by that is, in order for you to ask a question in Parliament, you have to submit it in advance, right? And then the other side has a written statement. That's why they go up with their folders, right? None of the conversations that happen in Parliament happen because those people know what they're talking about. It's like somebody in their office has read the question and then has gone and looked through the policies and looked through the things that the Labour Party have done in these instances, and then put together like a 1 to 2 minute response, right? So you need to understand, like, that's none of that. Similarly, what's going on in America when they do those hearings, like, that's all done in advance. Like, none of that's like live. It's like, it's not like if I was an MP, I could rock up to Parliament and be like, right, blah 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 blah, like, answer my question. You have to submit it in advance. So even when she gives a comprehensive response to something, that's not her words. And that's not any of their words. First, and even the people standing up and making the statements, that's not necessarily their words off the cuff. That is, they have prepped and figured out exactly what they need to say. So, so she grew up on a Stockport council estate, didn't get GCSEs. She became the deputy leader in 2020. Until that point, so she's became an MP in 2015, right? So she's actually been an MP. I mean, she's kind of suspended at the moment, but she's still on the backbench, right? She shouldn't even be an MP, right? If you are suspected of being a fucking criminal, you shouldn't be an MP. So 10 years she's been in office. She resigned from the bench, didn't she? She didn't resign from being an MP. And even if they do resign, then they get a fucking fat paycheck. So she has aligned with Labour, with Trident, not renewing our nuclear deterrent. She doesn't want that. She wants to get rid of the Lords. She wants to increase benefits. She wants to give houses to people who need it, i.e. people on benefits. And who is the vast majority of people on benefits? Is not people who need it, who are, British citizens. It's non-British citizens, right? She is all for woke lefty craziness, although she kind of says that she's centre left, right? That's what she pitches herself at. She was heavily involved under Jeremy Corbyn, which should hopefully give you a little bit of an understanding about how centre she is. She's also there are no inconsistencies with regards to what she says publicly, with regards to standards, working class issues, taxes, rule of law. She's just towed the party line every single. So she hasn't thought for herself her entire 10 years in power at all. Labour Party says jump, she says how high. She delivered. Right, as the Minister for Housing and Planning, or whatever she was called. It was the Renters' Rights Bill and Employment's Right Bill that kind of she pushed through. Now, in there, it makes it easier for unions to strike. Funnily enough, they can do electronic voting to strike. weird, even though electronic ballots are really fucking notoriously dodgy. And MI5 and MI6 flagged them as fucking dangerous, and we really shouldn't do them for any kind of election. But, you know, you can strike now. They lowered the number of days. They lowered the threshold for striking. So basically, what she pushed through was something that hugely benefited Unison. And there is no way when she gets into power would she be able to do anything to reverse that. Like, she cannot do anything against what the unions want. And the unions want an inflated and bloated civil service, right? Because that's where their members, that's where their money comes from. They want an inflated and bloated. They want the NHS with the doctors and nurses not actually having to work, right? That's what everybody wants. They want continuous outsourcing from outside the UK, because those people out there need jobs. It doesn't matter that we've got like mass unemployment. You know, something came out the other day with regards to that they think it's potentially a good idea to cut national insurance costs. And what's the other one? Because this is just fucking hilarious. Cut tax and national insurance. Right, the two things that they pushed up, which has now seen all the millionaires and businesses close. They've now realized, holy fuck, like, we need to do these things to incentivize people to work. They're also offering $3,000 to businesses to get a young person in a job. Right? How can you get a young, but what are you going to do? Just sack your older people to get a young person in? Because it's not like there aren't vacancies. The young people, I apologize, there are vacancies and the young people don't want to do those jobs. The only jobs the young people want to do are already full. And the young people actually aren't qualified to do those jobs, because they have never worked a day in their life, because they went from primary school to secondary school to college to university, and they came out and now they're working in pubs and bars, right? If they've got a job at all. So even to work in like random shops and bars, they get over. When I was a manager in a shop, one of the fast fashion retailers, when I was a store manager, like, I had 2,000 applications for a 4-hour like Saturday job. That was like 12, 13 years ago. Like, it is so much worse now. So much worse now. So Labour have been told, in order to save the economy, they pretty much have to implement conservative-based practices, i.e. reward the people who reward the people who are working, right? That's not what Rayner wants. Rayner wants to reward the people on benefits. They need to support businesses. That's not what Labour are about. Labour don't do supporting businesses. We've got higher national insurance, higher wages that are struggling. And I'm not saying like people don't deserve to earn the money, but if the business can't afford it, the business goes under. Like, so we had I don't know whether you saw, there was Claire's Accessories went under. Like, that was around when I was young, right? That's where I used to go. That's where I got my ears pierced on my ready for my 18th birthday. And they were there before then. But they went under, and the people who owned it were like, well, we went under because of Labour's policies. We literally just could not afford to run the business anymore. So everything Labour's doing is rewarding China, because, you know, China's the besties. China owns us. So she's just dodgy. So little private, so lots of people people who invested in a property maybe for their retirement, like now they're having to sell those properties because they can't afford to look after them. Now that all of the stuff that's come in from those renters' rights bills. And I'm not saying, right, because the rogue landlords 90% of the time were the councils. They weren't the little mum and dad who, like, little grandparents who had a home and maybe they've just downsized, got a bungalow, and they're renting that out as their retirement. It's not those individuals. It's the councils that are forcing people to live in mouldy homes. It is the housing associations. They're not the people who were impacted by her bill in any way, shape, or form, because the people who own those are all part of the unions, right? So this is she's an imbecile, and she's already been fucking the country up. And so if she gets, they are pushing her to be the next PM, which is why she's in the news non-stop. Like, Andy Burnham hasn't got a chance because he hasn't even got a seat, but they won't give him a seat. And he comes with way too much baggage. Way too much baggage. We've got Wes Streeting, who's maybe just proven himself over this whole meningitis scandal, which we'll talk about, right? And he gets saved the day. But it's her that they are, and they have been pushing, right? Because it's money. Like, the vast majority of her wealth and her being elected, like £350,000 of her political campaign is from Unison. She's had bits of money. Remember, she got like those free clothes from Lord Ali? Let me just double check. So Lord Ali, clothes, New York stays. So Trevor Chin and others. She had media she had media training, and she's still useless. That's bad. That's bad. That's really bad. She's earned over 100 grand since her resignation for speaking. I mean, if you've heard her speak, maybe I could get paid 100 grand to speak. I can definitely speak far more eloquently. And, Citibank's propped up by bankers. Farah Sassoon, who's a millionaire hotel property investor, who's been a friend since before 2015, so friends from Unison, gave her 10 grand here, 3 nights in a hotel there. Her company is a long Labour conference contract, so tit for tat, right? So she gives money, then she gets the conference contract. She's given 93k to the party. She gave Rayner £174,000 to spend on her election. That's a lot of fucking money. And I mean, just put that into perspective. That's an entire election campaign once you kind of get into the actual campaign. So we have like long campaign and short campaign, and there's like maximum spends. You can spend whatever you want before then, right? You can do like shitloads of advertisement up until that point. But then there are caps on what you can spend. And that's what the Conservatives got in trouble for, is during the short campaign, is they massively overspent. And it wasn't just them. Labour were doing it. And I knew Labour were doing it because I spoke to Labour people like at the time who were telling me. Farage was on national TV saying that they paid for an entire, like, part of UKIP, they paid for an entire wraparound, and that wasn't in their election expenses. So it was in everybody's, but the Conservatives were the one who had to pay the £70,000 fine. That £70,000 fine was like a drop in the ocean, right? It was nothing. Didn't matter. Like, at the same time, they had the fucking scandal of the young lad who committed suicide because he was being groped on the battle bus by I forget who it was, and sexually harassed on the battle buses. I mean, it didn't matter anyway, because he then, once they were re-elected, he was like a cabinet member and front bencher, right? So nobody gave a shit. No, so I've known for a very long time that the politicians are just corrupt. I can't believe she had media training. That's really bad. But yeah, so Unison have given her £350,000. It's a lot of fucking money. And then Sassoon £175,000. So they don't just give money, right? This is and so the UK on the corruption index is like it's like higher than loads of really, really corrupt places. So the UK is fucking so corrupt, so corrupt. Our justice system's bought, our politicians are bought, the king's fucking taking money in bags from Saudi Arabians and Qataris, and nobody bats a fucking eyelid because he gave it to his charity. Yeah, if I'm going to give money to a charity, I don't hand over a fucking Fortnum and Mason bag full of fucking cash. I will use the proper channels, right? We've got Chinese spies in Labour. We've got money changing hands. We've got all those things going. So we've got those three linked to the Labour Party. Like, how weird that they're not non-stop all over the news like the Welsh reform guy was in Wales. I've also seen loads of Labour councillors in the last couple of weeks like resigning on kiddie fiddling charges, funnily enough. But just remember, the reason why everybody's not going to prison is we only have 80,000 prison places, right? So, and it's full. Like, we're actually over capacity. We've got like 2 or 3 people in rooms for one person. So we literally don't have any prison places. So when everyone's getting really angry, like I get angry that these horrific individuals are not going to prison. Yes, the justice system is corrupt, but also there is no prison places. Like, there haven't been prison. There's been like 80,000 prison places since I was at university, which is like a long time ago. What, 2007 I went. It was my first year. Like, that's when there were 80,000 prison places. That's almost 20 years ago. So we're importing criminals with nowhere for them to go. So prior to being elected in 2015, she's not had a university degree. She's got no kind of economics understanding. She's got no kind of foreign policy understanding, no understanding about defense. And I say no understanding about defense, which is why she voted to get rid of Trident while we've got Iran and Israel and all of these like just fucking creating nuclear weapons left, right, and center. I don't like, either nobody has nuclear or everybody has it. Like, and then mutually assured destruction usually kind of like stops everybody in their tracks. So she's been doing the rounds on the BBC, Financial Times, New Statesman, so basically even Labour MPs don't think she has the skills to be in number 10, especially when it comes to the economy or crisis or anything that kind of you need a leader to be, right? Especially the fact that she has already shown real lack of judgment in what she was doing with her housing. And so I can't remember what she basically she set up a trust, or she got a house for one of her sons who's very disabled, and she didn't pay the tax. It was like 40 grand's worth of tax. So she's crowdfunding that money. So she's crowdfunding the money to pay off the debt so that she can vie for PM. Now, I'm not saying you need a rich person to be in an MP in any way, shape, or form. But if you can't if you do something wrong, really wrong, right? And you can't see the fact that you have just been the biggest fucking hypocrite because she was the housing minister and she was pushing through increased punishment for people who did things wrong, like similar things to what she did. And yet she still thinks she can be the MP for it, not face like proper consequences, right? So if you can't see how that makes you not a good candidate, that's really concerning. Like if I created a law that we're now only allowed to drive at 30 mile an hour and I'm racing down the motorway at 100 mile an hour and I think, do you know what? Well, the law doesn't apply to me, so I'm still deserve to be the prime minister, right? It's like that, like that she doesn't think the law applies because she wouldn't have done it. And she could have checked, right? She could have checked. She kept saying, oh, they didn't tell me. And they kept saying, we did fucking tell you. She's got an unconventional background, right? Which is similar to Thatcher, Blair. Sorry, no. So Thatcher, Blair, Cameron, Sunak, and Starmer all kind of did the traditional route. However, John Major didn't have a degree. I mean, he was a fucking retard as well, right? He was useless. And again, I don't think you have to have an education, as in you don't have to have a bit of paper education, but you have to have some kind of real world experience outside of being mollycoddled and groomed by the unions. I think pretty much my concern. The unions are like a mafia if you've never looked into them, and all the pension money's gone as well, so maybe somebody should ask Unison where all the pension money's gone. So here we go. 800,000 hoe flat she put in a son, and there was 40 grand missing. So yeah, she was the standards champion, perpetually attacking Tory conservative tax avoidance and doing the same fucking thing herself. Here we go. So since Labour came to power, so rather than saving the country, which is what they've spent the entire 14 years, Tory cuts, right? If you've got a Labour council, that's literally like every time they start a statement as to why nothing's happened, it's the Tory cuts, right? But also, if you watch Keir Starmer today talking about his defence thingy, what he says is, well, I'm trying to repair the stuff from the Conservative government. Okay, but you've been in power like 2 years, mate. Trump said he was going to go to war with Iran if they didn't do what they were told. Like, this is like, no, it's not a surprise. Like, I wasn't surprised. People who were paying attention weren't surprised. He is surrounded by MI5 intelligence, like, reports come to him. Like, nothing that is happening on the world stage should be a surprise to the Prime Minister at all. And if it is, then we either have a really shit intelligence service, and I know that we don't, right? I know that we don't. I mean, some of them are corrupt and they make shit up, like the Steele dossier, right? I mean, he was X. But they're pretty good. So they knew, like, we're part of Five Eyes. Like, we knew, and he would have been told. Like, none of what's gone on should have been a surprise. Yes, because Trump didn't pick up the phone and be like, Starmer, mate, we're just going to hop over to Iran right now. It's like, that's what intelligence analysts do. They analyze intelligence on the global scale. Like, if I can piece shit together from tweets and newspaper clippings and random things Trump says, people who were trained in intelligence will have seen shit coming miles away. Miles away. So where we are now, and this is why, Labour's surprised that the economy is tanking, and oh no, we had to borrow loads more money than we thought we would. This is really confusing. We're going to hit 112-ish billion shortfall because of a benefit-based shortfall. We're on par for, right? And that's not because the money wasn't there when they set their policies in place, but it's because they've driven out all of the people who were actually paying for it. So Henley Private Wealth Migration Report, 2025 provisional data, UK suffered a record loss of 16,500 millionaires. So we lost around 91.8 billion US dollars in income to the Treasury, which is more than double the earlier years. So it's the CTG has gone up from 10 to 18% on the basic rate, 20 to 24% on the higher rate, and they reckon it's going to double again for 2026. The Treasury hoped non-dom reform would raise 33 billion. Right, that's what I don't understand why, when all of the millionaires and all of the businesses were saying, if you do this, we will have to close and we will have to leave, why they didn't take them at their word. Like, why? We are importing people from countries with low IQs, like statistically, not racial. It's not like the Somalis have around 60, 70 on the IQ scale. Pakistanis about 70, 80. Like, these are not doctors, nurses, and engineers. And if they are doctors and nurses and engineers in their own country, I don't want them treating me in England. Right? I want my doctor to have at least 100 IQ, which is average. Right? That's average IQ. Like, so to put it into perspective, so I've mentioned before, I've got dyscalculia. So when you kind of break down the different parts of the way in which my brain works, with regards to math, it's about 71, which equates to, in like English terms, English UK terms, is non-verbal autistic. Right? So that's how good my maths abilities were. I count my fingers, right? That's it, right? But the other parts of my brain work so successfully, I'm still at like above average IQ. So the people we're importing are as intelligent as the part of my brain that literally doesn't work. Cannot tell the time, cannot add shit up, cannot spatial rotate things, cannot figure out where the fuck I am in time or space, so I get lost really easily. Like all of those things to do with mathematical capabilities is non-accessible. That's the people we're bringing into the country. The type of person who walks into a supermarket and takes his cock out and pisses over the meat and thinks it's okay. The kind of people who stand in the street, pull their pants down and shit in the middle of the street and thinks it's okay, right? These are the types of people we're importing. And these are the types of people that Angela Rayner wants to support more, right? It's un-British to not support these people who are coming not from war-torn countries, are coming from countries where they've spent the entire fucking week, 2 weeks, like mourning the death of a dictator who's been trying to murder us in the West for the last 40 years. So if they love Calamini so much, like anybody who rocked up to support the IRG should be on a fucking plane, because it's like your like asylum status like and claim is null and void. Right? How have you left the tyrannical regime, but you're over here crying that they're there you go, off you go. Go on then. Back you go. So they thought they'd get 33 billion and instead they've lost 91. Like, I don't understand how this is a surprise, right? This is having people in charge of the country who, like, you don't even need an economics degree, right? That's legit just common sense. If I keep making it really fucking hard for the people in jobs to earn money and afford to buy their own food and do all of these things, or if I make it really difficult for somebody with a business to pay their employees, then they're going to have to leave. Because if their business goes under, they can't afford to live in the UK because they've got no income, right? Like, it's not like these people just the business owners, lots of the millionaires, they aren't from old money. They're not like Keir Starmer. They're not like from, like, they're not lords and ladies with like vast wealth which is being passed down generationally. These are people who fucking worked their asses off to create an income, right? And then they have a business and then they employ other people. And when you start ramping things up so which it's no longer viable for them to pay themselves or other people or keep the business running, like, I genuinely, like, somebody in the fucking media needs to actually ask them these questions. Like, how did you think raising all of these taxes was not going to result in this? Like, how did you decide raising all of these taxes was going to create this 33 billion? Like, where did that come from? Show me you're working out. That's what we had to do at school. You show me you're working out. Can you remember when Diane Abbott was on the radio and they asked her, like, when how she was getting money from, I think it was the police, like how was, or it was something like, you know, you said you're going to increase the police by XYZ, or you're going to give them extra Z money. Like, what does that work out to? And she just came up like some random fucking random number that was just. And you could hear the radio person be like, I don't quite think that figure's right. No. Just like adamant, this random fucking number, right? Show us you're working out. We should be able to dissolve Parliament if they make promises without clear paths to how they're getting there. And this whole bullshit about, you know, we took over from somebody else, we didn't know what was going. You did fucking know, because all of the governments, like, they have to put the reports out there. This is how much money we have. This is how much we spent. This is how much we have. Like, it's not a secret how much money the HMRC is getting in taxes to government ministers. There are no surprises. Again, this is the absolute theatre. That it's not a surprise when they go into office and be like, oh yeah, well, we've got no money. Well, duh. This is how many businesses, this is how much money they're giving you, this is how many people are employed, this is how much money they're giving you, this is how much debt you owe, this is how much you're paying in interest. This means you are paying out this much, right? This is your benefits bill. You are paying this much and you are getting this much. In order for you to get more money than you spend, you have to invest not in buying the train stations, not in doubling the pay, like pay percentage increase for public sector workers, not by importing lots of sub-IQ foreigners for shits and giggles, but by actually supporting the businesses, of which the vast majority of workers are the white people, right? The racist, evil white people who are paying for everybody else to fucking sponge off them. I've proper ranted. I really, just really doing the Rayner stuff. Just it made me very, very angry because I just never agreed with any of Labour policies, and every time I kind of read into them, I'm like, this is why they're just fucking stupid. Don't get me wrong, like 100%, if somebody needs looking after by the state, I'm all in on that, right? 100%. If you are unfortunate enough to be born disabled enough that you actually don't have good days, right? And I say it like that because I have good days and bad days. And I've mentioned before, like I've literally shown up here barely able to walk. So some days I have bad days and I can't walk, but I look after myself. And so I have a lot more good days than bad. I know people who have lots and lots of bad days. There are lots of things they could do to increase their good day chances, but that's on them. However, if I fell down the stairs and I don't know, lost an arm, I don't know, trying to think about something where I wouldn't be able to, I don't know. There would probably be no situation where I wouldn't want to work, because not working and having something to be proud to invest in society in some way, and I've done jobs, so it's not like, okay, so I always say this to people, it's not me, and I know because I've just been slating people for their intelligence, right? I've spent 10 months, right, because I didn't have a job. I did. This is when I left retail because of the psychological abuse and all of that shit. I kind of walked out. And I didn't have a job. So I had to go get a job. And I went and worked in a factory. I spent 10 months screwing in 2 screws to computer servers. That was my job. And occasionally I got to build boxes. So I was very excited on the days I got to do the boxes because it was more fun, right? It was a bit of variety, right? So that's what I did. I stood on an assembly line for 10 months. And the only reason why I was there for 10 months is because while I was there, I was looking for something else, right? But I was there and I was working. And those 10 months, I did my job well because those screws were important to the integrity of the thing that I was a part of, right? The person who created this microphone is integral to this conversation. So anybody who is doing anything that is increasing and advancing the success of society as a whole, that's so powerful on our psyche, right? If you're not doing anything, right? If you don't have a job, if you don't have, hobbies are different. Like, you can do a hobby and that can be something that's enjoyable. That does not give you the fulfillment that you get from being invested and being involved in the betterment of society. And again, betterment of society is, are you the person who made my chair? Because if you did, thanks. I needed a new chair a while back. Thanks. Are you the person who is stuffing the pillow that I put on top of my chair because it wasn't quite soft enough? Thanks, because the chair itself made my back hurt, but at least I had a chair, right? So all of those things are important. The people we're importing who are on the benefit are not doing any of those things, right? They've not put any money into society. If somebody's got parents, grandparents who've invested in society, or maybe you have and you've had an accident, the state absolutely should fucking look after you. I think the state should, because you fucking looked after the state, right? I agree with that. I think education should be free. I don't agree with the national curriculum in the way that it stands, but I do think there should be free education. I do think there should be free at the point of use medical care. I don't think the way that it's working at the moment is useful in any way, shape, or form, because at the moment, the only medical care that you can access for free is the dregs of the medical care. right? If you want good medical care, you have to go private and pay for it. And that's not what it should be, right? It's actually worse now than it was when you used to have insurance and actually get, and it's not free, right? Because you're paying for it in your taxes. So this is the other thing, right? Would it be better if I like paid no tax, right? And then I opted into bin collection because I choose to get my bins collected. I'd get premium service on my bin collection. I mean, Birmingham haven't had any fucking bin collection for over a year, right? This is why they're going to get, Labour's going to get wiped out in Birmingham. Part of it, obviously. The other part is because they're all like jihadi super left, like green, red green alliance, and now they've got the Green Party. But if I've already paid into it, right? People would, if you had to pay for your medical care, you would invest in keeping yourself healthy. You would, because you couldn't fucking afford it to rock up to A&E every 10 minutes, right? Some people are like in there all the time, or at the doctor's all the time, right? You would have to figure shit out. And in the age of AI, right, the age of information, it's not hard to find out, how do I stay healthy, right? I mean, eat good food, exercise, and sleep. That's kind of like the basis, right? But she's all for we should look after people who are struggling. We should look after people in their old age. People should have an opportunity to retire. If you spent like 45 years propping up the entire country, you deserve a little bit of fun at the end of it, right? 100%. But if you've not put in, I don't think you deserve to get out at all. And I also believe in the world as it is today, there's a hell of a lot of jobs that people can do which are useful, that they could do and be paid their benefits, right? We need, like, the fucking country's a state, like absolute shit show. Like, streets are dirty, hedges need cutting, like, I mean, like basic maintenance. Like, you don't need a degree to go around with a fucking litter picker, but if you want this should be like all of those young people, right, you're out of education now, you want your universal credit, like, you've got to go fucking litter pick 5 times a week, 5 hours a week, then you get your money. Like, I remember growing up and going to the job center, like, it wasn't something people wanted to do, right? Because it was seen as shameful, and not because it was shameful. We had the miners' strike and all of those things that were going on in the 80s, and it was hard, right? Like, my mum went without food multiple times a week, like, so that we ate. So I didn't come from a rich background. I came from an RAF child's background, which is fucking poor. So again, your background, because I sound like a right fucking stop talking about Rayner. She's just not PM material, like, at all. Okay. Let's get back to her. What's she done? So, repealed the minimum service levels during strike. So there's no forced staffing in hospitals, councils, or care homes. So if the hospital decides to strike, that's it. You've got no care. If the council decides to strike, that's it. The council services are offline. Care homes, offline, right? So that means that the entire public service bows to the whims of what the unions want, right? They strike, that's it. They stop. And for anybody who's been at university and university students over the last, I don't know, 5-6 years have faced strike after strike after strike after strike, and they're paying for that, right? It's different when it's happening in I mean, it still shouldn't happen, but they're paying for that. They're paying for a service, and the people they are paying to show up for work, they're not showing up for work. So, like, all of the students should have just refused to fucking pay, or should have demanded a partial refund. Like, where were like, I thought students were supposed to be like fucking protesting and about students' rights. Like, where were they? Why weren't they protesting about the strikes? Like, I'm paying you all this money and you're not allowing me to access the thing I fucking paid for. The strike notice has gone from 14 to 10 days, easier for unions to access workplaces, lower recognition thresholds, and electronic balloting. So really quickly, Unison and other unions can decide they're going to strike, and that's it. That's it. Day one, you get sick pay, but people in private sector jobs, very few of them get sick pay. Managers will get sick pay, but outside of salaried management, so all of the casual workers, all of the, like, you know, people in shops, in, you know, industries, they don't get sick pay, right? It's public sector workers who get sick pay, who get like 23 sick days a year. Like, it's part of a fucking holiday. They use it like a holiday. I've got my 5 weeks off holiday. I've got my 23 sick days. Like, they're not at work. You can now sue for unfair dismissal after 6 months rather than 2 years. I mean, I did think 2 years was a bit harsh because there are bad employees, but most places have a 12-month probationary period. So, I mean, it should be 12 months. It should be, or once the probation period's over, right? And your probation period can't be more than XYZ days or something. But 6 months is not a very long time in business world, working world. So Unison's new general secretary in December doubled down on prioritizing members over right or left-wing drifts. They've already been challenging the government where it's diverging. Rayner has never rebelled against their agenda, right? So what you basically, even now when Unison says jump, she says how high. So jeopardizing the base is electoral suicide. It is. I mean, I don't see how she can put herself up as a working class warrior, because people in the public sector, they're not like on the low end of the pay scales, right? They think they are hard done by what they have to do. Go and work in a fucking shop, right? Go and work in a bar for minimum wage. Get spat on by members of the public. You don't get those, like, all the teachers, like, they're like, I mean, how many months a year do you work? Like 9? My sister's a teacher. So if she gets in, right, here's the current trajectory and how her Unison lens interacts. So mass immigration, which are not primarily workers. So they've supposedly tightened skilled worker visas, but obviously they haven't. There's that whole Pakistani pretend that we just don't address, right? We pretend that the Pakistani visas, that we just ignore them. Family routes have been tightened. Student dependents have been slashed to 85%, but we haven't got rid of them. Non-EU dominates arrivals, with big chunk of non-working dependent students, humanitarian and asylum routes. And again, Rayner's recent un-British critique of further tightening signals she's resist hard caps that had hit public sector staffing. NHS care relies on overseas workers because the NHS funds them to learn and then pays for their entire families to come over. The NHS doesn't fund our people to learn. So that's why the NHS relies on external workers, is because that's where they fund the training. It's not because there isn't the capacity, intelligence, or ability in the UK. There are fully trained doctors and nurses of English, Scottish, Northern Irish, Welsh descent who cannot get jobs, even though those jobs are advertised for. Are being advertised. They cannot get them because they're competing with like thousands of others, also British born citizens. The NHS won't hire them. So Unison's focus is protecting members' jobs and conditions. They don't give a shit where those members come from, right? So, and remember, like if you pay your union fees, it funds the Labour Party as well, right? So you're automatically a lefty. And we saw, didn't we? Like the teachers are like 70 odd % like left, whether it's like left and green was just like scary. Wealthy worker exodus we've already been through. So crime rates, prisons, and soft sentences. So prison population is at 87,000, projected to hit 100,600 by 2030. Right, but again, there's only around 80,000 actual prison places. So 87,300 is telling you that we've already got overcrowding. We've got overcrowding at 24%, and which is increased. 72% of prisons are affected. So we're going to get maybe 100% of the prisons are going to be overcrowded by 2030 because they're not building more. Instead, they're going to build 7 new towns with 40,000 job lots of houses each. Who are they building the fucking towns for? Because the working people can't afford to buy a fucking house. They can't get on the property ladder. Who are all these new houses for? When we've got the people who are working are leaving the country. Recalls to prison are up by 30%. So this is why they're releasing prisoners, right? They're having to release prisoners because you can't recall somebody to prison when there's no space. So in order to get one bad person back in, you have to release another bad person. Also, remember, the prisons are now fucking jihadi hotbeds. So we had 9.4 million incidents of crime in England and Wales last year. But Unison is soft on crime. Yeah, she won't be able to push through tougher sentences, building prisons, reform the NHS, slash council budgets. She can't do any of that. Okay, so I asked her about on the international stage, like what has she said? So she's not done anything with regards to the international stage. So with we'll talk about Iran a bit more in a second. After we'll do Starmer and Iran, then we'll do meningitis because it kind of makes more sense. So with the Strait of Hormuz and the Cyprus strike, right? So that's over the last month or so. She kind of has just stayed. She's playing both sides. She hasn't ruled out, or she hadn't at the time, right, ruled out aligning with Trump, but also she's anti-Trident missile, anti-war, anti getting involved because of her base, right? Her base is the electorate, who Starmer said are the face of the UK. So make of that what you will. She has got no notable track record on what she thinks about Putin or the IRGC or anything, right? So even though she's like doing her comeback plan, right? Trying to get a front and center, like she's not even weighed in on the most pressing things that are going on right now. Like Matt came back from filling up the car and it's gone up 34p a litre in a week. Right, where is she talking about white working class families right now affording to get to and from work, right? It's not even a short amount. So Unison back multilateralism, anti-austerity, foreign aid. So realistic outlook, stronger union power in public services, easier strikes, better worker rights, buys loyalty from a base but risks more disruption, higher costs passed to private payers, slower adaptation to exodus, immigration, prison pressures, international challenges, like she would have to lean on everybody else. Her role would likely amplify domestic divides rather than steady the ship. So and even like Labour people are thinking the same thing, but just because they're all useless. So then so Grok kind of said something random about her being in Manchester, and I was like, wait, well, what do you mean she was in Manchester? Like I don't pay attention to, I try not to pay attention to the politicians, but we have to. So she is part of Greater Manchester, Ashton-under-Lyne, which is in Tameside, adjacent to Oldham and Rochdale, which is where the grooming scandals happened. In January 2020, she directly raised the Manchester Evening News / Andy Burnham Review into Operation Augusta, which is the thing that Maggie, what's her name? The ex-cop. She was Operation Augusta. But you know, she's now suing. Like I don't know why she wasn't suing before, and I've heard from survivors that she's not good people. She's definitely doing lots of media, telling a story. Anyway, so in the House of Commons, she called it a terrible failure to protect vulnerable children, praised the journalism and the review, and then asked how the government would ensure that it never happened again, right? Bearing in mind, she's been an MP by this point 5 years. And she was very high up in Unison. So she was coming into, and she was working in the care sector. So she would have been coming into contact with people on the ground. There is no way she did not know about the grooming shit in her daily life at all. As a child in Telford, I knew about it. Right? If you lived in or around these areas, you knew what was going on. There's no evidence she's ever led any national inquiries or pushed for any ethnicity data transparency. Her ally, Jim McMahon, was the Oldham Council leader who's now a government minister in her department. In 2012, so this is before she became the MP, but they kind of knew each other, right? In 2012, his strategy explicitly avoided highlighting perpetrators, Pakistani heritage to prevent community tensions or far-right ammunition. So the person who is her ally, who now is a member of her, or was a member of her department when she was in the housing, whatever she was a leader of a council which has perpetually been in the news for covering it up. She has never apologized for saying that it was a far-right bandwagon in 2025. She has never... Nobody's ever tried to hold her accountable for her lack of anything, right? And everybody tries to pretend, right? So everybody tries to pretend that, oh, well, we kind of just assumed it didn't happen. This is what Liz Truss said, right? Oh, well, I thought it was all dealt with. That's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. So in 2018, when Lucy was a member of Parliament, she was in Parliament. Like, I do not like that woman. We are not friends, right? We are not friends. I might have got her elected. I might have worked really fucking hard to get her elected, but we are not friends. You will not find us polite to each other. If we're in a room, and this has happened since, if we're in a room, we don't even have a conversation. Right? That's how much I do not like this woman. However, she did a lot to force the grooming scandal back into the news in 2018. The reason why she was told to shut up, pipe down, and shoved to the back benches. I mean, yes, she was drinking a lot and doing like dodgy shit on social media that got in trouble. But the main issue is she would not shut up about the grooming scandals. Multiple times she raised it in the House when Liz Truss was in there, right? Angela Rayner would have been in there, right? She raised it and raised it and raised it. This is before the ICSA inquiry. This is trying to get Telford on the book. She's telling everybody it's still going on. She's talking to survivors and going back to the Houses of Parliament saying it's still happening. It's still being reported. So nobody has the right to say we didn't realise it was happening. And 2020 is only 2 years later. This woman, all about working people, the kids, the white working class girls who were being fucking targeted. She knew. She will have known. As Housing Secretary, she pushed national planning reforms. I know we said this bit again. It just keeps repeating itself. So They Work For You shows near 100% Labour loyalty. So demographics of her area, right? Population 48 to 49,000, 70% white, 18 to 25% Asian British, which means Pakistani, right? That's the way that they say Pakistani. So there's 22% Pakistani in there, which means her area has a grooming problem. It's increased from 6% to 9% in the last 10 years. White's gone down from 90 to 85%, with 65% UK-born residents has dropped. Notable Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities, deprivation is high, above the national average, right? So her area has above national average deprivation, and she wants to be in charge of the country. Like, if you can't improve the prospects of the people in your fucking town, and yes, it's the council who deals with a lot of shit, but she should be like involved. It's a Labour council. It's not like it's a Conservative council. Like, the problem when Lucy was in the MP for Telford is the Labour council wouldn't engage, right? Because they hated each other, right? So that every time Lucy came out on something, they had to be on the opposite side of the fence. They're on the same fucking team. And we now have a Labour government. So why aren't all the Labour towns just fucking rising? Net international migration has contributed to the rise in the population and a higher than England average population increase, particularly around those specific nationalities. She will not stand up for the victims of the grooming scandal because she will lose her seat. I genuinely was shocked to find out she literally said nothing until 2020. And she just responded to just a statement about Operation Augusta. That was it. In 2022, so after that, she's co-signed a joint statement with Oldham MPs, including Jim McMahon, the person who was the Labour council. But obviously, similar things have happened in Telford, because we had Sean Davies, who was Telford's Labour council. He successfully covered up Labour's grooming scandal in Telford, kept it out of the main inquiry, pretended that it's not happening, and he got promoted to MP-ship at the last election, right? So that if they cover up, then they get promoted in. How is it far right to talk about a unique pattern of criminality, right? Everybody always pushes back, but there are white paedophiles. Yeah, there are. And they go to prison. Like, I have never fought to let the white paedophiles off. But what I am fighting for is the non-white, specific Pakistani grooming, rape, torture, murder gangs to also go to prison. Like, for the right, it's not an either or, it's all of you, right? like I don't understand that argument. It's just it's so retarded. It's so retarded. Oh, sorry, ICSA was 2015. So when she got elected, ICSA started, and then they had the hearings 2019, 2020. Sorry, my apologies on those timings. But she still didn't say anything then. Didn't say anything about the J report. Didn't say anything about the other Casey report. Didn't say anything about any of those things. So she is not good people. The Unison statement on grooming. They're disgusted that it's been racialized, right? I mean, I'm disgusted white little girls were targeted, but they're disgusted that people are concerned about the perpetrator's race, right? That's what Unison. So Angela, she can't step up, she can't deviate from the narrative. So the other potential players, right? Wes Streetings, the health secretary. I might do these like one a week. Maybe that'll take us to I mean, I don't know. I got very depressed. So we've got Wes Streeting, who's current health secretary. Quick rundown: Polish communicator, centrist, moderniser, outspoken on Gaza, NHS reform, often second favourite in odds, 5-2, 7-2 range. Polls show him competitive versus Starmer, narrow wins or losses, but hated by the hard left. Tied into Madness circles, so damaged with some. I see him as most likely cabinet rival if he moves. Then we've got Andy Burnham, who's the mayor of Greater Manchester, top in many of the member polls. So he's 54% first choice in YouGov, crushes Starmer head-to-head, centre-left, popular locally, high approval in red wallish areas, criticises Starmer on immigration and housing. However, he can't run without returning as an MP, speculation that he might do. But union admiration, so Unison General Secretary likes him, makes him a wild card, right? So Rayner won't want him in play because like she'll lose to him. Ed Miliband, like how is he even in the fucking running? Like, are these really the best that Labour can like muster? Bacon Ed, right? Bacon Ed appeals to grassroots, so climate left, beats Starmer in some polls. Oh my days. 2010, 2015 baggage, lost elections, Bacon Ed. Seen a safe pair of hands for unity, less aggressive ambition than others, because he's a fucking bumbling idiot. Did not understand that the vast majority of the money we pay on energy was all taxes, right? It's 1% goes to the profits to the energy company. The rest is all fucking tax. And they, on the news, they had to show him the pie chart. They literally had it like on the screen because he was adamant it's not like, how can you be in charge of a department and not actually know the money composition of the thing that you are championing and the vast amount of fucking green tax and subsidies? Like, how, like, just, this is because it's not them doing it, right? But you'd at least brush up. I mean, you'd have learned from Diane Abbott. You'd have learned from her and her car crash interviews. Or anytime they ask the politicians, how much does a pint of milk cost, right? Most people don't know because they don't buy pints, right? They buy it in 4 pints from a supermarket. So it's kind of like awkward to ask most people that. I have doorstep pints. It's £1.34. It might have gone up now, but it was £1.34. I find out when I pay, right? But I'm not even gonna, like, you just pay for your fucking shopping. Anyway, if you are a politician, you wanna go to the supermarket and you wanna check average loaf price, you wanna check average bread and cheese prices, because they always ask you those things, right? If it's getting more difficult, you need to know what the average price somebody's paying for gas kilowatt hour, what they're paying for electricity kilowatt hour, what that actually equates to with regards to profits of the big 5 companies, right? And you're not even the one who's doing the work. You're just going to maybe watch a couple of the news channels to see what they're kind of slating you about, and then you're going to come prepared. Then we've got Shabina Mahmood. She's Blair endorsed Pakistani who says her faith is her priority, right? Live on TV, that's what she said. Her faith is her priority. She was the former Justice Secretary. She's now the Home Secretary, socially conservative, economically left, tough immigration stance. She hasn't got a tough immigration stance. It's fake immigration, right? Because they are limiting visas to countries that weren't actually coming. They are returning people by giving them up to 40 grand. They are not doing, sounds like Matt's burning something. They are not doing anything to actually hamper the actual influx, right? We have a net migration has gone down, which they're saying is all them. That's because of those 16,500 millionaires who've left. And also lots of Polish working people have gone home because it's more prosperous in their own country than when they came here. Lots of European people who moved here for a better life have gone back to their own country. So we are losing the people who are good people, and we are just gaining Not great people. So members don't like her, which tells you because they're too stupid to read, right? She is the only one who's probably like sat there thinking, you are so stupid. If you fucking read what I was doing, then you'd be thinking, well, one, they'd be thinking, well, she's two-faced because she's not actually doing the thing that she says she's doing. But two, you'd quite like me, right? Birmingham hate her. Like, people in Birmingham hate her because they, again, can't read, don't read. Like, then we've got Lucy Powell, who's the current deputy leader, ex-Commons leader, Manchester ties, Birmingham backed, Yvette Cooper, previous Home Secretary, strong on migration and crime. I liked a couple of the things that she did. I don't trust any politician though. But she got moved and she was doing some kind of goodish stuff, which was quite strange. Similarly, like, who is she? She was back in the news today. Who was the Conservative one? Who's now in Reform, who said she would never go Reform? Suella Braverman. Like, one of the things I found out after she left is she actually took the CPS from outside of the Houses of Parliament and she put it back in the justice system. So it's independent, right? So she did that on the quiet. That was interesting. Anyway, then we've got Al Carnes, who kind of popped in at 2024. He's an ex-Royal Marine. And he's just been all over the news for spending like tens of thousands in like claiming tens of thousands on expenses for doing like videos of like him like challenging people to like pull up, like, you know, like the weird American like videos. There was that one, there was one of the people vying, I don't know whether it's for the Senate or whatever it was, and he put bacon over a machine gun and like shot to cook the bacon. Like, I don't understand how that makes you qualified to like be responsible for the running of the country. I feel like there is a disconnect between what politicians think looks good to members of the public, and what members of the public actually think politicians' capacity. Like, there is a clear disconnect between expectations of the politicians and their actual capacity to even get out of bed and brush their teeth, get dressed in the morning, right? Yeah, so I might we'll do West Street in next. He's like a little squirmy little rat thing. That's an awful thing to say, isn't it, Katie? I don't know. I just see, you know, when you just see somebody, they're kind of like just a little squealy. Like, I don't know. He seems like if you have like those bad, like you have a baddie in a film and you have like the proper power baddie, and then you have like the little like scurrying one in the background. That's who he reminds me of, a little scurrying thing. Because he keeps putting his head above the parapet and then he keeps scurrying. Yeah, he's a little scurrying thing. Yeah, okay. We'll do him next. Little rat boy. Okay, so let's deal with Starmer, the wet lettuce. Let me just check in to see if Trump saved the world and Iran yet. Let me just see if there's a White House statement. Might as well get some real-time news, eh? White House. Oh no, that's all about TSA. I mean, that's some good news. Memphis, Tennessee, a city that had the highest rate of violent crime per capita in the country, has seen a 43% reduction in crime since President Trump's multi-agency task force began. I mean, they probably just like removed all the criminals. I mean, that works. That's a huge drop. We could do with him in London. One of the largest, fastest declines in violent crime ever recorded. That is huge, like almost 50% drop. But they did. If you remove the criminal, no, doesn't look like there's been any real Iran update. No. Okay. Starmer. Oh, he's just so Starmer was being grilled. And the entire thing was Tory cuts, Tory cuts, Tory cuts, right? That's the entire thing. Tory cuts, Tory cuts, Tory cuts. It just makes me angry. Okay. So what have we had this week? Oh, that was the... Here we go. We've had an attempted breach at a nuclear weapons facility. So on and around March 20th, so 3 days ago, a 34-year-old Iranian man, Sarasam Abutakir, and 31-year-old Romanian woman, Alina Valentina, were arrested and charged after trying to enter Her Majesty's Naval Base Clyde in Faslane in Scotland, the home of the UK's nuclear armed submarines. Police Scotland and multiple outlets treated it as potential espionage or hostile state incident. This is a direct threat to Britain's strategic deterrent, not some random trespass. So that was 3 days ago. So that's like a direct assault on our nuclear capacity, a military site. Starmer still said that he is trying to figure out whether we're allowed via international law to intervene, right? That is IRGC backed, state sanctioned, like IRGC state sanctioned attack on the country, right? They didn't just stumble in to the nuclear weapons facility. 2 days before that, which is IRGC linked and confirmed, we had Nematola Shavasani, 40-year-old dual British and Iranian, so he's Iranian, who just rocked up on a boat probably, and Arliza Frazati, 22, fully Iranian, were charged under the National Security Act for reconnaissance on Jewish targets in London, including the Israeli embassy, Britain's oldest synagogue, and community sites on behalf of the Iranian intelligence services. The activity dated way back to 2025 summer, but charges came amid heightened tensions. MI5 have tracked over 20 Iran-linked plots in the UK, often targeting dissidents or Jewish Israeli interests, right? Then we had 4 Jewish ambulances set on fire, and everybody's like, well, why do the Jewish get their own ambulances? It's because it's a Jewish funded charity. Ambulances aren't NHS. They are private companies that will get NHS contracts, and you have charity ambulances. We have charity ambulances in Telford. Like, it's just because the Jewish charity's funding them, right? If you want Christian ambulances, go and fucking fund them. And there's also they've just found out there's a Jewish police force. Okay, if you want a Christian police force, go and fund it. Right? If you look at our, like, the way that the justice system works, like, we've been like, I can go and arrest somebody. I'm not going to. Under PACE I can, right? That's the law. So if you want to start a Christian police force, do it. You just haven't. The Jewish people don't have special dispensation to have ambulances and have a police service, just that they're fucking funding it. Right? So everybody's like kicking off on Twitter, like, why have they got? But because they paid for it. That's it. Because they realised the NHS was shit. And maybe they decided that if they had a relative who was dying, they wanted them to get to hospital. What we have in Telford is we have like taxis. I mean, you don't want to go in a Telford taxi, I'm not going to lie. But you have like, the taxis will take you if you need to get to hospital, right? And then if you're on benefits, it can get claimed and you can get into a taxi and you don't necessarily need we have like paramedics that aren't necessarily in ambulances. They can come out to the home, right? But if you, like, we have St. John's ambulance, it's a charity. I mean, they don't discriminate between Jewish and non-Jewish, but we don't have a huge Jewish population in Telford. Like Red Cross ambulances, they're a charity. Like, it just, people need to stop and think before they start kicking off about the Jews did it. Like, the Jews get special like, they just fucking funded it. But to all of those fucking Candace Owen type Christian psychopaths, if you want Christian ambulances, then set up your own fucking Christian ambulance charity, buy the Christian ambulances, and then start paying people to drive them. There is no monopoly on who can drop somebody off at A&E. There really isn't. You can go and do paramedic courses at university. If you want to. You don't even need to have a university degree to be a paramedic. Like, if you have a degree, you're a higher paramedic, but you don't have to. You don't need a degree to be a paramedic. You just do a training course. But you didn't know that, right? So, should we just stop before we think? So anyway, we've had 4 ambulances, and it's been confirmed as an anti-Semitic arson attack, right? In Golders Green, North London, 4 Hatzalah Jewish volunteer ambulance vehicles were torched outside a synagogue using an accelerant, causing explosions from onboard gas canisters. Counter-terrorism police are investigating an Iran-aligned militant group, Hakrat Ashab al-Yamin al-Islamiyah, or Islamic Movement for the People of the Right Hand, claimed responsibility via Telegram, linking it to similar attacks in Europe. Israeli sources called it hallmarks of an Iran-backed attack. I mean, the Israelis sometimes do shit themselves. Sometimes we do false flags, right? So we don't necessarily know. And maybe we don't know who funded them to do it. But anyway, no confirmed Iranian perpetrators yet, but the claim and context fit the hybrid warfare, right? Okay, but that's another direct attack on British soil, and an Iranian group has claimed responsibility, right? So that is 3 very high-profile incidents in the space of 5 days. And Starmer's still fucking fannying around with maybe we shouldn't let you use the UK bases. I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter now because Trump's already fucking done it. It's too late, you dick. MI5 has been warning non-stop against espionage, assassination, influence operations. A recent poll shows high favourable views towards Iran among British Muslim communities. Right, 40% of British Muslims are favourable to the Iranian regime. If that doesn't terrify you, then nothing should. Like, I mean, I don't know what would even. So versus 8% of the general population, right? I mean, that's still pretty fucking scary. But that 8% of the general population will be the 40 fucking percent, right? We also had, in case you missed this, Iran's missile capabilities so there was a believed 2,000 kilometer limit, and actually we found out that so Iran launched ballistic missiles towards the base on Diego Garcia, which is 3,800 to 4,000 kilometers away, which suggests they could actually hit London. London's like 4,500. So even if they haven't got the capabilities yet, they are working towards being able to shoot missiles further afield, right? You don't create weapons unless you plan on using them. Starmer is still telling everybody, why didn't we? I said no to the initial attacks. Like it literally, we are being, I mean, and we don't even know what MI5 has stopped. And this is what I mean by not all of our intelligence services want to shit. Two are bad, right? There are some good people. Otherwise, the mass casualty event that the Iranian regime had planned for Christmas, like so even before the war, like we had MI5 saying publicly that they had stopped something that was planned to be the most horrific terrorist attack in the UK. That was at Christmas, and it was linked to the IRGC, the Iranian regime. So even like now, everybody's saying there was no imminent threat to America. Of course there fucking was. Look at what's going on in Europe. Like anybody in America who doesn't think Trump needed to do what he needed to do, and I'm anti-murdering people. I'm anti-war, right? Because I know it's not going to actually change anything. It just creates more violence, right? But we are in a position now where we just need to buy the islands off Japan, round them all up and throw them on the islands, right? And they will never get off them because we did the Industrial Revolution. They're not learning things. They're not contributing to society by making things, creating things. Like it's not like if you threw a survival person on an island, they would have a great time, build a boat, and probably escape. Right? It's not the same. We just ask Japan for those 7,000 islands that they didn't know existed, all of a sudden appeared. Can we solve the terrorist problem humanely and just prison island? Right? I think that's fair. Like it's everybody. I mean, Japan doesn't want to be inundated either, right? That Japanese PM, like I think she would be all for it. Like the countries, I mean, we could all just support them. We could pay the money, right? Just ship them off. I don't see why we can't do that. We're not killing and we're not murdering anyone, but you are harboring destructive thoughts against this country. I accept your country as a war zone. Here is a neutral territory. Fill your fucking boots. Go for it. Fuck it. Sink or swim. You're not my responsibility. So Starmer's still, I didn't do it. It's not my fault. Doesn't matter, mate. Like they've been trying to kill us for, what is it, 1,400 years? You're the wrong color for them to give a shit. Right? Talk about racism. Everybody's coming out and talking about it was an anti-Semitic attack on those 4 ambulances, but they're not saying who committed the anti-Semitic. If it was a far right, right. If it was a white person, a neo-Nazi anti-Semitic attack, which tells us it's Muslims. But you can't say that now because we've got that new law and we've got the Muslim czar, and I don't care. It didn't get involved with opening up the Strait of Hormuz. He refused. Like, this is, so he has refused entry into a war with alongside an ally, right? Alongside an ally, while the country is being attacked at home, waiting for lawful basis and a viable plan. I thought Trump's plan was pretty fucking obvious. We're going to go over there. We're going to bomb the shit out of the weapons compounds. We are going to assassinate the entire leadership. And if they get a new one, we're just going to fucking take them out too. And then we're going to give it back to the Iranian people. And we're going to let them actually have their country back. We're going to rectify the fuck up of the UK and the USA. And the intelligence agencies in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s, right? And all of that shit. And then like 90s, and as it kind of carried on with Iran Contra scandal. So we're gonna rectify all of the shit that we've done to actually cause these people harm. Like, nobody's bringing up Iran Contra. How weird. Nobody's bringing up like Khashoggi, Epstein. Like, I mean, it's linked to Epstein. Like, it's weird, right? Really fucking weird. So nobody's talking about that kind of weirdness. So they're rectifying the issue, right? Giving it back to the people so that they can recreate the country that they had before the American fucking CIA, dodgy rogue government overthrew it. Okay, and so why did they overthrow it? And it's not just that. Like, we got the old guard, new guard, all barons. We kind of went through all of that. But why did they do it? It's for money, stability. So you can't be trusted to elect your politicians. This is why they're selected, because you might have a politician who actually decides to do things that are good for the country and for you as a person, and that's not good for business, because then you get instability. Then you get volatility in the economic market, right? Look at what Trump was doing, fucking throwing shit at, like, the economy was going up, down, around. The rest of the world is fucking rippling, being affected by him making decisions which are good for the American people. But if you imagine every other country's doing the same, you actually then do get stability. It is a fine balancing act that will just happen. You will get a symbiotic process between countries who are able to make decisions based on benefits to their people and invest in things that are going to be useful. And if they can't invest in it outside, they will invest in it inside, right? So you won't have Chinese people being fucking slaves. You won't have the Indians being slaves, or the little children like in the toxic cobalt mines and lithium mines, right? You won't have that, because people would be accountable. But Starmer is waiting for lawful basis. So it doesn't matter that we are on the receiving end of attacks. So Cyprus was, the single drone that rocked up, right? Which nobody managed to stop, which is really pathetic. That was a direct attack on UK sovereign ground, right? Just because it wasn't inside the United Kingdom, it's our base, right? That's UK territory. That was attack. That wasn't enough. The espionage isn't enough. The breaking into the nuclear weapons facility, that's not enough. Blowing up the ambulances, that's not enough. The fucking vigils and protests on the streets in favor of Calamini is not enough. Calamini slaughtering 10,000 of young protesters. The IRGC does not care about international law. And it fucking bombed. Like, didn't it bomb like 8 different countries in the space of like 12 hours? 9 countries. Iran hit 9 countries in a single night, including 7 of the wealthiest nations on earth. Israel striked the South Pars gas field, and then Tehran just went fucking nuts, right? And hit Qatar. So that, I mean, you don't usually like shoot the people who are paying you. So Iran probably got told off very quickly. Obviously, Trump said like, make it worse, and we will just like you'll be game over. So that was all kind of like shut down pretty quickly. But so they just like so our allies are being attacked, right? So our supposed allies. And I know we didn't even have to do anything active. We could have just allowed America to use the bases they pay for, right? Or if you don't want America to use our bases, then you cancel the contracts and you get them off and you stop taking their money, right? This fucking halfway house has got to stop. This hypocritical halfway house has got to stop. If you don't want America to use the base that they have a contractual right to use, because we've signed a contract, right? We signed a contract to say that you can use this. We double check with Parliament to make sure it's okay, and then you can use it, right? So either you allow the Americans to come and make a case for why they should be able to, like nobody allowed that to happen, right? Or America just pulls the money. I'll be like, that's it. We're just taking all back. By them. I mean, obviously, wouldn't bode very well for America if they just started fucking pulling everywhere. But I mean, there's a lot of money that comes into the UK with all the money they put into the bases over here. So I did. And if I was Trump, I'd be like, oh, that's fine, right? So everybody come home. That's it. Shut them all down. You owe us a refund. Like contract, you should just fucking right, taking the UK government to court for reneging on a contract. No, it does say that it has to be checked in Parliament, but he didn't do that. He just said no. And I think Trump should double check his contracts. What does it specifically say? Because maybe Starmer broke the T's and C's. Who knows? Oh, I've lost my thing. Then we've also had, oh no. But obviously we've got the May elections coming up, right? Mayoral elections, with London mayoral elections. So Sadiq Khan, they cannot afford, Labour cannot afford to actually come out against the Muslims. They can't. And obviously we've got reform pandering to them as well, which is why they've got Dubry, Firkin, Layla, and everybody's ignoring the fact that she's lying on her CV, but that's okay. You know, she's telling everybody she did like prosecuted terrorism cases and high profile cases, and her name's not on any of those cases that she mentioned, but they're on like low level misdemeanor type cases, but that's fine, right? So she's lying about that. She was whoring herself across the fucking political media circuits, was refused to be put up as a mayoral candidate by the Conservatives, and then and she was going to get kicked out of the Conservatives for really poor attendance and being shit and never actually doing anything, and so then she defected, right? But you know, while all this shit is going on, Starmer's telling all the Muslims they are the face of the UK. I mean, they will be, because we'll be genocided out. Why does nobody care about the white genocide? I don't know. We're the wrong colour, aren't we? So there was a debate in Lords, the House of Lords today, regarding the Diego Garcia incident. So I just mentioned with regards to the intermediate long-range ballistic missiles even. I mean, none of them hit. One was intercepted by a US warship. One failed mid-flight. So we in the UK said it was reckless. And then we've allowed Trump to use Diego Garcia for defensive operations, but no offensive strikes. It's so pathetic. Genuinely pathetic. Billions are already flowing, so into shipyards, housing Leonardo helicopters, not waiting for the full defense investment plan. He's just a flip-flop fucking spaz flap. And then I got really annoyed with somebody on social media because they posted something like, I spoke to my psychiatrist friend who says that Starmer's got autism, and so, you know, kind of making a case for the fact that he's got autism. And I was like, one, your psychiatrist friend is really remiss in his duties by diagnosing somebody that they've never been in a room with, never had a conversation with, never asked about their developmental history in any way, shape, or form. Somebody having low IQ and being shit at their job doesn't necessarily mean they're autistic. Like, he's not, I mean, I obviously can't diagnose people if I'm saying that same thing, but just because somebody's socially awkward or shit at their job, right? I mean, you can tell, you know, with all of those Ukrainian rent boys, he was the one on the bottom. He is not the person telling people what to do. It doesn't mean you're autistic. Like, what a random... I probably just got clickbaited, didn't I? Yeah, probably. Okay. So... Okay, so in October, I was getting Grok to be the evil. No, it was way before October. It must have been. Has I got the date? Oh, yeah, no, it is October. Because there was the October attack on Yom Kippur. Oh, yeah, so it, like, so multiple attacks in the last fucking 6 months. Anyway. Oh no, didn't we? And then we recognized Palestine on one of the fucking holiday. No, I don't. It was just bad. All that shit was going on. Okay, so anyway, after kind of diving into how like diving into patterns of how civil wars start, diving into went into the Bolshevik Revolution, World War II, all of those things, to then push it forward to see, okay, well, if they were going to start a similar thing here, what would kind of what would it look like? What would we kind of need to keep an eye out for? And I'd kind of said that I believed one of the sparks would be the grooming gang, because at the time, so the grooming gang investigation, it was still going full ahead, and there was still, at the time that we were doing this, there was still, the volunteers, the victims were still on the panel, right? None of it had started to disintegrate at this point. So what did we want to look into is what would be so there's a knife attack October 28th. So we were looking to figure out, okay, what would be a thing that would light the spark? When was it likely to happen, and where was it likely to happen? So I'd suggested that the grooming scandal would be the catch-22, right? Because if the Labour government actually pushed through and started arresting people, that would light the spark. And or if it failed and they stopped it all, that would then push the other side, right? So that's the one thing that I could see that was, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And we had lots of attacks on, so remember we had like the mosque fire, considering like all of the church fires, mosque fire, the random guy walking down the street who got like murdered. All of those things were going on last year. Clear ramping up of everything that was happening. So we whittled it down to London and specific area in London, because it had like 94% Pakistani origin, right? It was the highest percentage of Pakistanis in the United Kingdom, and Birmingham's already a bit of a powder keg. Birmingham already has like no-go zones, and there's rubbish everywhere. It's not a nice place to live in a minute. Why can't I find it? Okay, so I dropped a message. So what I asked was whether the summer 2026 flashpoint is looking more likely. So everything we mapped out last year, Birmingham's the central spark, grooming inquiry, deportations of the fuse, county line spreading to Leicester. So basically that was the thing. So it started in Birmingham, jump up the county lines, and then spread really quickly through so just like jump on the train, right? And motorways. It was about where would something start in the UK and then be able to like map and escalate very quickly to other regions, which also had heavy divisive populations, right? So you can't just say, well, it's going to start in London, but if it's in London, it's kind of contained, right? And if it's in so it's some of the other areas, it would just take too long to overwhelm you. It has to be done at, I mean, if we've got Muslims watching this, like this is the plan, right? So it has to be done enough to overwhelm the local services. So the police, the armed forces, whatever's locally, it has to be done. It has to kind of start and spread fast. So if you think like mobile phones go in and then everybody's kind of jumping off the trains and off we go, right? That's why Birmingham is the central location, heavy area. The one area, I can't remember the name, begin with an A. One area in Birmingham had like 94% Pakistani, close to train stations, very close to Shabina Mahmood's area, or was it in her area? I can't remember. So deportation, so that's what you see. So she's like hardlining, right? Deportation. It's not really happening, but they perceive it as happening because remember me saying they hate her, right? And they do videos on her all the time. They hate her, and they can't fathom the fact that it's like a mirage. It's like smoke and mirrors. But it's lighting the fuse even more. So it will be in the summer because it's heat waves, it's people not at work. And what I mean by not at work, I mean like the working people not at work. Students, teachers able to get with their fucking placards. So it's always, and there's like proper riots are always in the summer. So it'll go from Birmingham to Leicester, Leeds and Bradford. Disinformation spreading via social media. Telegram is a hotbed of IRGC organizational accounts. It doesn't mean that we should get rid of Telegram at all, but just like it's on social media. Then we have so Grok's now said it's been accelerated by the last 6 months of real world events, but actually it hasn't been accelerated. Our timeline is still on par. It's just more likely now. So the pieces are locking together faster than we projected. The trust eroding feedback loop is tightening. Here's the honest assessment based purely on the documented chain that we've tracked. So why the probability has risen. And I saw these. I was saying this. What if this happens? This happens. This happens. And I knew the grooming scandal would end. Inquiry would collapse, right? It has to collapse. Survivors quit in October 2025. 9,000 Met review, which was handed to Khan, that was allegedly sat on for years. That's come out since. This is textbook institutional betrayal, directly validates the two-tier justice narrative that was always the emotional driver for Alum Rock. There we go, unrest. When victims themselves walk away, the public doesn't just lose faith, they start assuming the system and protecting the perpetrators. But also remember, they've just come out and said that they're going to be tagging the victims. They're going to like put ankle bracelets on the victims of like a grooming gang attacks and rape victims, not arresting the criminals who were doing it. They're going to start fucking monitoring and tagging the victims. Right? It's all about triggering the civil war. That's exactly the precondition we said will push Birmingham from a 60% flare to 75 to 80%. So knife attacks. So we had Uxbridge back in October. Then we had a Huntington train massacre, random British person, November the 2nd. Then we've had BTP rehearsal in March. Oh no, that was before in March, wasn't it? But obviously that's pushed round. So they can't cover up. Complex issue responses turn London into a parallel flashpoint. It's no longer just Birmingham's problem. Capital did the same thing. That cross-pollinates the narrative. London's mayor can bury thousands of cases. Why trust inquiry in Birmingham? It widens the theatre from one city to the entire M1, M6 corridor. So farm closures, so 6,500 in the last 12 months. The death tax hitting April 2026. So that's more people who are more angry. The rewilding solar land grabs are hitting peak visibility as summer 2026 heat waves are forecast. Food price, anxiety, rural anger is the backdrop that would make South Point 2.0 stage or opportunistic child attack with maximum force. So the original summer 2026 odds were 25 to 30% chance with the multi-city flare. Now he reckons it's 55 to 65% for a Birmingham-led cascade by July to August. So trust erosion's low. Predictive drill is knocking around. What comes next in the script, right? So April to May, Birmingham local inquiry hearings, expected survivor testimony leaks. So if we start seeing testimony leaks, and remember, we've just had the pretend grooming gang inquiry, right? So that all fed into this increased outrage. I told you that's what it was about. Oh, and he used it to launch the Restore Britain political party, right? So we will have knife incidents or grooming related arrests or both. Hotel sites, asylums is the flashpoint. And then it will only take 30 minutes to get it to kind of flashpoint into Leicester, 2 hours, Leeds and Bradford. So the observer effect still applies. The more people who fixate on the chaos, the more they help collapse the worst timeline, right? So we do need to just be mindful. But for some reason, Grok hadn't even factored in the Iran war. I was like, okay, wait a minute, but you've just missed the fact that we've got the war and then we've got like them protesting. So even now, because of the war and the protests, he says it's even more likely. So now it's jumped from 25 to 30% to where's the new one? Where's my new timeline? Oh, you put it in the wrong place. Come on, Grok. Yeah, so it's 75 to 80% chance. That's where we're up to by July and August this year. The Iran war, so the US-Israel war on Iran is now into week 4. Leadership decapitated, Ali Khamenei killed, Mohabita injured, incapacitated, IRGC filling the vacuum. Strikes on Natanz, Tehran, missile sites, power plants threatened, Iran retaliating with missiles on Israel, Gulf bases, Diego Garcia, Strait of Hormuz, UK involvement, defensive only. But remember, we've just had like 4 back-to-back attacks, 4 different attacks in the space of 5 days. So this all feeds into this civil war-based push for this summer. Oil prices surging, so that'll be pissing everybody off. $84 to $90. Energy bills spiking just as farms closing. Refugee and immigration fears reignite. So Iran war is now displacing millions. Yeah. So April to May 2026, Birmingham inquiry hearings resume. And Alum Rock, so his potential prediction, Alum Rock protests will turn violent. So there's a 75 to 80% probability that will turn violent, April to May. June to July, heat wave, fresh knife incident or grooming arrest. That's a 60 to 70% chance. And then vigilante patrols, no-go areas hardening, M6 blockades. So 55 to 65% overall for multi-flare. So in the last 6 months, that is 100% increase in chance. So we've gone from 25 to 30%, it was going to happen, to up to 80%. Looking at it based on, but it's not inevitable, but the writing's on the wall that if they need to lock us down, they need to force control. And this is what Starmer will need in order to save his premiership, right? He will need he will need to be like ultimate Starmer Stalin. This is where we're headed, in my opinion. So I just thought I'd give you an update on, thought I'd check with all this stuff going on. Okay. So meningitis. Oh my gosh, look at the time. So the meningitis thing. So first up, because there's lots of talk about the Pegasus, right? So Pegasus was the like the event 201 thing they did for COVID, and then they do the SPARS pandemic. So pandemic preparedness, which did use meningitis, but it used viral meningitis, not bacterial meningitis. So one of the key things to understand, the difference between what actually was going on and what the media was reporting, right? So the media was reporting unprecedented pandemic, panic, like really ramping up this panic. But actually bacterial meningitis is only transmitted if you are like bodily fluids exchanging. It's not something that you can catch just by being in a room with somebody. You've got to get intimate with them. So first up, let's not get intimate with each other. Lots of people who got so we have to remember back in the Rona, so when they were looking at all of the ingredients of what was actually in the Rona jabs, there was bacterial meningitis in there. So I would hazard to say that the people who caught it were probably, Rona jabbed. But actually, this gets even more interesting. So in 2015, the GlaxoSmithKline, so that's who owns the contract, it wasn't them who had the contract. They bought out the company that had the contract. So the company before GSK were actually negotiating to be the bacterial meningitis vaccine supplier for the NHS. The contract went through, and GSK bought the company out like early 2016, and 6 months later, it was approved and it was being rolled out. So huge amounts of money into GSK, right? Now, I looked into whether any of the board members had all of a sudden, rises, any kind of dodgy dealings behind the back doors, but it doesn't look like anything like that did happen because they just kind of bought the company out. So perhaps that's the actual dodgy deal in itself, right? What is interesting is that the tenure was up, and then you have to kind of reapply for. So they had a 10-year contract, and then they just reapplying for the contract, and so reapplying for the contract because it was due to finish in May 2026. So a bacterial meningitis outbreak is really handy. Right, it just shows how important it is, but also got them an extra 5,000 doses printed that they wouldn't have done any other way. One of the things that they, tout as being the amazing thing about this vaccine is it saved 50%. It reduced infant mortality by 50%. Now, obviously, that is some very, very dodgy statistics reporting when you say it's reduced infant mortality by 50%. Because I grew up in the 1980s, and 50% of children weren't dying from bacterial meningitis. What it actually means is in the clinical trial of 277 babies, from what I can remember, 50% of them, 50% less than expected actually got meningitis, right? So the actual relative risk of catching as an infant, because it's now part of the infant vaccine rollout, the actual relative risk of catching getting bacterial meningitis as an infant is really, really small. Really small. So they started rolling out these jabs for infants in 2015. What's really interesting about this cohort who randomly has bacterial meningitis, they were too young. So they were missed out of that 2015 cohort, right? Because that was only 10 years ago. But also they were missed out on the kind of catch-up things that they do in school, right? So sometimes you get kind of like missed generations. So I didn't have any meningitis vaccines because they weren't doing it for my year, but they did it for my brother's year. My big sister didn't have TB because they weren't doing it for her year, they were doing it for my year, but I had the tester and I didn't need it because I got natural immunity because my mom has natural immunity to TB. So back in the day, if you were immune, then they wouldn't just jab you up. So what I will perceive happening is GSK will now be able to make a case for doing catch-up vaccines, right? Because this case, this outbreak, right, which was 20 people infected, 2 did die. Well, 2 died supposedly from bacterial meningitis, which is sad. It is sad. But we have outbreaks quite a lot. And the 20 who were infected is not like an unusual number. So what I was trying to figure out was like, okay, well, if they're saying it's unprecedented, it's terrible, it's exponential, like using all of these words to kind of show like, oh my God, this never happens. And Grok was like, yeah, no, actually it kind of like, it's always round about this number. If you've got kids in a nightclub and they're all kind of like, you know, drunk and snogging, like it's going to happen. Right. 25% of people are carrying it. It's infectious within the first few days. It can linger in your system for about 3 months. So I was looking, is there something that maybe triggered it? Like why? And the reality is the media spun this entire thing, which means GSK will, in my opinion, will be able to kind of try and book in extra catch-ups, right? Because we had that terrible event where 2 people died, and it is sad that 2 people died. Don't get me wrong, it's sad that 2 people died. It's also terrible that thousands of people died from the vaccine that we're never going to die from COVID, right? So people dying is sad. However, this is like a fucking money-making spin because there was no need for that media storm. It's still been, they were saying they might have to do a fucking Cobra meeting for 20 drunk students who were just fucking playing spin the bottle a bit too enthusiastically. Right? So general rules of thumb to anybody out there, let's not swap saliva with random people. Let's not share drinks. And you should be all right. So what I did kind of dived into, so for those of you who are older like me, you probably remember the whole glass test, right? So if you get a red rash, you do a glass on, you press the glass. It's a glass pressure test, right? So I always thought, like, you know, this is how you test whether it's meningitis. If you get a rash, it doesn't go away. When you press the glass on it, it's meningitis. What I actually found out is while that's true, you shouldn't really be waiting for the rash, right? If you wait for the rash, you're pretty close to already being like on the way out. So it starts out as a, it kind of feels like the flu. Excuse me. And then you might get vomiting, confusion. Like, so if you have like flu and those symptoms go weird, get in touch with the doctors. Don't wait for the rash. It only shows up in about 50% of people. Like, why on earth did they give us all that fucking dodgy advice as kids? Right? Like that was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, the rash thing. Right, no, don't wait for the rash. So, however, if you do have bacterial meningitis, a course of penicillin does you fine. That's it. That's all you need. You don't need the vaccine. Because if you made it all the way to your 20s without catching it, and if you're asymptomatic, right, this is the spread. Oh, it's asymptomatic, right? Well, if you don't have symptoms, then you aren't actually infectious at that point. So it doesn't matter who you're snogging. So the people who were going out to the nightclub when they felt like shit, or snogging people who then went out to a nightclub who were then infectious, who then maybe got ill a few days later. The thing is, when you're at uni and you're drinking, they do like freshers flu, right? So because you're drinking all the time, you're not eating, you're not looking after yourself, it's your immune system's fucked. It's really easy to pass shit around between each other. But general rule of thumb, the way that so yes, look, these teen young people, 100%, they're immunocompromised because they're drinking. They were at a fucking nightclub, of course they were drinking. They've probably been jabbed up, so they probably have it in their system, or they've been snogging a jabberer. a jabberer. But they're bringing into the fore sharing vapes fucking with their system. But what it did, and this feeds us back into talking about Angela Rayner, right? So Wes Streeting's the health secretary. He came out from behind his little fucking spidery, not spidery, like fucking little rat, little scurrying place, to front and center about this pandemic, this exponential growth, this absolute sensationalist bullshit, because now he looks like a contender, right? Because I could not for the life of me figure out why it was being non-stop over the news if it's not the viral version, right? Because it doesn't spread in the same way. And whether you believe in viruses or not is irrelevant. Let's just play the game. You have to, like, it's not as contagious. It is more lethal. And if you go past flu stage, you could end up with, obviously you end up dead, but the vast majority of people who get it, they recover, they have some penicillin, they recover, they're fine, right? So it's not world ending. We're not going to need a lockdown. We don't need the entire country vaccinated. We don't need the non-stop reels of students being terrified and queuing up for their vaccination. Just don't fucking snog random people for the next 14 days and you will be fine. Well, don't do it, right? You don't know where they've been. Just don't do it. Because it's only infectious for the first 10 days, right? So you just tell everyone, right, don't kiss anyone for 2 weeks and you'll be fine, and it'll just die down. The infection's gone, right? You've all had your penicillin, so if you did have any active, so it's killed anything that's active in your system. If you've had your penicillin, just don't snog people, because then you could end up dead, right? I mean, I think that would probably stop people in their tracks enough. What was interesting was finding out the names of the meninges. So if you don't know what they are, so the meninges shield your brain and spinal cord, so your central nervous system. They're like a tough cushioned wrapping that acts like a barrier against injury, supports blood vessels and nerves, and helps contain your cerebral spinal fluid, which is your clear liquid that bathes and cushions the brain and the spinal cord. So it's really useful. But the names, we have dura mater, which is called tough mother, which is the thickest and strongest outer layer, made of dense fibrous connective tissue, attaches to the inside of the skull and vertebral column, contains channels that drain blood from the brain and provides the main structural support and protection. Then we have an anacroid matter. And I was like, wait, when I read anacroid, and I was like, wait, like spider, literally called spider-like mother. The thin web-like middle layer looks like a spider's web due to its delicate strand, lies just beneath the dura mater, has no blood vessels of its own. Between the anacroid and the next layer is the subarachnoid space filled with cerebral spinal fluid for cushioning and nutrient transport. Then we have pia mater, which is the tender mother. The innermost, very thin and delicate layer clings directly to the surface of the brain and the spinal cord, following every fold, rich in blood vessels that supply the central nervous system tissue. Together with the arachnoid, it's sometimes called the leptomeninges. So it acts as a physical barrier against trauma, absorbing shocks to the brain, doesn't bang against in the skull, anchors the brain and the spinal cord in place, preventing excessive movement, helps enclose the cerebral spinal fluid in the subarachnoid space, which cushions the CNS and removes the wave. So CNS, central nervous system, and then provides a framework for blood vessels, nerves, and immune surveillance. So in meningitis, the condition that we've been chatting about, these membranes become inflamed, usually due to bacterial. So that's meningitis B, men B, or viral or fungal infection invading the meninges, often via the subarachnoid space. So the inflammation causes symptoms like headache, stiff neck, fever, and sensitivity to light. So if you get sensitivity to light when you've got a bit of a flu, like that's don't wait for the rash. Because it's irritated meninges swell and press on the nerves and the brain tissue. That's why the disease is named after them. Meningitis literally means inflammation of the meninges. So your spider webs, your brain and central nervous system spider webs start getting inflamed. And those spider web type structures are the things that house and support your brain and your central nervous system in place, so keep it functioning. Is that's just like you kind of like stuck a, you know, like say if you have you seen those kind of like long balloony things? So if you got like a long balloony thing and then you got your spine in the middle and then you got like a fat one on the top and then you got your brain in inside it, is you're sucking all the air out of it, and then you're like causing, like putting pressure because it's just getting fatter and fatter. So it's becoming inflamed, but it's inflamed, which will be squeezing, right? Because the meninges get inflamed, so they get bigger. So that reduces the space between the meninges and your brain, pushing and pushing and pushing. So bacterial meningitis targets these areas specifically, leading to rapid and serious effects. So what I did was I got, because I like to tell you the kind of prompts I used. So Grok was really pissing me off again, because I was kind of asking just random questions and he kept coming back with like, oh, full fact has dismissed the contract thing. I was like, please stop. Like, I stop using mainstream media as debunking stuff. Nothing's been debunked, just actual facts, like what has been shown. So I ended up getting him to be, can I get right up to the top? I got him to, this is the prompt. So it's quite handy. I was like, okay, so please take on the role of forensic OSINT investigator for an intelligence agency. And you probably need to make my role prompt a bit better. So we did. And so then what he came out with, let me see if I can show you this because it was really cool. And then I had to kind of tell him to like speak in like not all science because that was quite confusing. So he was actually doing it in like full reports. Can you see that? So forensic OSINT assessment, subject, Neisseria meningitis, subgroup B, MEM-B, biological profile, transmission forensics, hypothesis evaluation, and then classification unclassified for official use, analysis, Grok, lead OSINT, biological threat dynamics. And I forced him to only use, so I put this in here, please use PubMed, not media outlets or government sources, right? Abandoned from government sources as well. Because of the spin, right? I was just seeing all of the spin and it was driving me crackers. So then he kind of just gave me, and as I added extra stuff on, his title started to change. So what have we got down here? Now he's come back to normal language because we're just having a chin wag. Did we get? So here we've got, he also I got him to do forensic. So I got him to also add forensic accounting when I was looking into the contracts. So it's good. You just have to, I always forget, you have to give them the proper role. You have to tell them, I want you to do this and stop using this. And then they just forget until for next time, which is quite annoying. So oh, so there was a PubMed paper as well. So there was a non-bacterial Pfizer reaction, where the person presented with meningitis, right? So that was 2022. So I was kind of like scrolling through my old stuff because meningitis kind of we had like meningitis outbreaks in 2022, like after everybody was being like fucking Ronavaxed. But it was a different one. So yeah. But basically, it is all spin. Like meningitis was all spin, right? Like we've had like non-stop. Like I was shocked after kind of the Rona stuff and starting just actually paying attention to like what they're doing. I am genuinely shocked at how often they recycle pandemic type stuff, right? So we've had, and each of these we've had multiple times in the last few years. We've had disease X multiple times, monkeypox multiple times, meningitis multiple times, influenza multiple. I mean, influenza keeps coming back. Then we've got just like every 6 weeks, it's like, oh, we've got another pandemic. So I mean, obviously Trump already pulled out of the WHO. There's another country that pulled out, Argentina pulled out of the WHO the other day. That was interesting. Obviously the UK hasn't, because we wrote the fucking the new pandemic preparedness plan, right? So everybody forgets that we were the ones who were like instrumental in writing it. Of course we're not going to fucking pull out of it. We are all in on the cabal. Our government is, anyway. We're not. Like I'm not as an individual. Just throw that out there. Okay, so last 10 minutes, some kitchen fun. I say I've had some kitchen fun. It's not all been fun. But what did I kind of tease you with the labels? So sweet tooth taste, to enjoy the sunshine boost. So enjoy the sunshine, boost the immune system, and avoid toxic sweeteners and chemicals. So we're about to have a heat wave, because of course when I have a heat wave, it's perfectly timed because they need to kind of dry things out. So farmers will start to maybe plant the seeds, and then come April, May, they will like do another blanket frost or like drop all the rain. So they have to make sure that we can't feed ourselves. So we're gonna get like some hot weather. So this here is my homemade cordial. I am very impressed with it. It is grapefruit, orange, and lemon. It's actually got sparkly water in it at the minute. And it lasts between 4 and 6 weeks. It is not something that I recommend you drink more than once a day. It is full of sugar, but it's tasty, right? So the amount of sugar in my I worked it all out. I think it's between 25 and 50 grams of sugar, which works out between 9 and 12. Between 50 and 100 mils of cordial, it works out about between 9 and 12 teaspoons of sugar. So that was a bit of a shock. However, it tastes lovely. So, but there's no kind of stevia in there. There's no kind of like shit in there. And because so sugar's the preservative, right? So I made fresh juice first, and that was really nice. And then it only lasts 2 to 3 days. So what you can do is you can make some fresh juice, and then once you're kind of getting to like day 3, you can turn it into cordial. However, you do need the rind to kind of be in there when you're kind of like cooking. Like you're not cooking, but actually just warming it up to melt the sugar, and then it tastes a lot nicer. So just kind of like do it. Whatever you're doing, like juice the stuff, do some fresh and do some cordial at the exact same time. You will end up with like pure kitchen carnage though, right? Like I made such a mess that I refused to clean it for like most of the day and went back down when I had to. Like I avoided kind of like going down and eating. Just didn't like them. There was just stuff everywhere. So this and the price is cheap, right? Cost wise is less. The difference between making your own fresh juice and cordial is the vitamin and mineral content, right? So the shop bought cordials are very expensive. Like if you've seen the elderflower bottle green, they're like £5 a bottle for some cordial. Barely any minerals in there. It does have lots of sugar. I've already kind of mentioned that. But it also has about 25% of my daily vitamin C allowance. So this is 4 grapefruits, 6 oranges, and 1 lemon. So you need to grate the grapefruit, not like the piffy bit, just like grate a bit of use it. I don't know why I'm doing the actions. Grate a little bit of the grapefruit. Half of the oranges you need the zest, and then the entire lemon. So you need to unwaxed lemons. Chop them in half and then juice them. You will need to get rid of the pulp. I mean, you can if you want to kind of keep the pulp and then throw it in the blender. Then you also get a fiber in there. I couldn't do that because I got bought a KitchenAid present, which is why I was like, oh, let's make some juice. Like it came with a free juicer bit. So basically this time last week, I had a hissy fit, and because my blender, which I'd had for 6 years, stopped working. And so then the next day I came home to a new blender and it had a juicer attachment for free, right? So I had a hissy fit. And so then because I had a juicer attachment, I was like, well, now I need to make some juice, right? So sent Matt to the shops for some juice. Not juice, for some fruit. But I did my usual and didn't kind of specify amount. I said just get some fruit, right? Get some grapefruit, some oranges, some lemons, some limes, and just we'll see what happens. So I should have checked like instructions first and then said, hey, come back with X number. Anyway, so we spent about 10 quid on fruit. So we ended up with 12 oranges. I think we must have had like 12 oranges, 12 lemons, 12 limes, 4 grapefruits. We had some we had orange and lemon pure juice yesterday. And then today I was like, right, well, it's so much effort. I'm just going to do it straight into cordial because it's really stressful. So every other week, right? That's the plan. I'll make some every other week. So I'm going to have to do some lemon and lime because I've just got like all the world's lemon and limes left. But that's okay. I quite like lemon and lime cordial. It's quite refreshing. So this is, like I mentioned, so this is 4 grapefruits, 6 oranges, 1 lemon. You need the rind from all 4 grapefruits, half the oranges, and one of like a full lemon. Or you can do half the amount, right? If it's just you, do half the amount and you'll get 750 mils worth of cordial. So I put 600 grams of caster sugar and 2 teaspoons of citric acid. I had citric acid in the house because I've got my cheese making kit, right? And it's in there because I keep forgetting to. Well, this is why I was starting to have like smoothies again, because otherwise I kept forgetting. And then I wasn't having my kefir and it was getting wasted. And then I was having to make cottage cheese and then I was forgetting about the cottage cheese. I'm trying to make sure that the things that I'm purchasing, I'm eating. Like the reason why I need to have the kefir is because it's great for my immune system, but I was just forgetting. I have to tell you, like, it is so nice. Like, it is so good. I have not had a nice, fresh juice, like I stopped drink. I mean, I will drink very occasionally now, just because it makes me tired and stupid. I don't drink very. If I'm going to drink, I usually have like I might have a. What do I have? And again, this is like alcohol free. I like an alcohol free beer over the weekend. I did have some red wine. I don't know, maybe like a month or so ago. But again, like then I'm tired the next day. So I normally just have like a tea in the morning, and then might have a tea later on. But most of the time it's just water. So it is quite boring. It is genuinely quite boring. It is so good. Like, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend trying it. So there's a ginger version I haven't tried yet. I did buy the ginger, but I had the pressure. The pressure of cooking. So anyway, so once you kind of once you've juiced it all, I mean, if you have an electronic juicer, it's definitely easier. And I say definitely easier. But here's a little trick for you. If you do have an electronic juicer, make sure you have a bowl of warm soapy water as well, because you're gonna like juice, like, well, the one that I've got, you have to like hold it down and it spins for you. So it just stops like I've got arthritis in my hands and wrists, so it stops the ache, right? So once your hands get sticky, and then the citrus like spins round. So I would like, you could get 2, and then your hands are covered in shit. So then I was like going back to the sink to wash my hands, dry my hands, and then start again. So I figured out a process that wasn't too bad. But so once you've got all of your juice out, I do recommend you then put it through if you've got the KitchenAid one, those holes are quite big, and like I ended up with like the grapefruit seeds, pips, seeds, I don't know whether they are. Some of them got like chopped by the rotationy thingy, so that's why I was like, yeah, I can't put the pulp in because some of that's seed. So then I had to take it to a colander and then like strain it again, which is cool. So then put it into a pan you can stick on the boil. You need to add the same. I had to put water in. Oh, wait a minute. How much did I get? So I had, so 800 mils. Wait. You need the water. You need to know how much the water is. Okay, I topped it up with water first. So I got 800 mils of grapefruit, orange, and lemon juice. But me and Matt actually had some neat juice for it's beautiful. We had like some little glasses of neat juice first just to test it before I turned it into the cordial. So I did 600 grams of caster sugar. Or did I do 7? But no, I did 700. He said between 600 and 800, and I was going to go in the middle. So you can do less if you want, or you can, it's fine at 700 grams, I thought. So you need the juice, the zest, the sugar, and the citric acid. Oh, and 600 mils of water, right? So 800 mils of juice, 600 mils of water, medium low heat, stir until the sugar dissolves, 5 to 10 minutes. Mine was kind of dissolved after about 3 minutes. Turn it off, and I left it for 60 minutes because I read the instructions wrong. So it says between 10 and 30 minutes, but it was still warm after half an hour. So I wanted to leave it to cool completely, but I left it. Yeah. So I left it for an hour. So if you want it to taste like mine, leave it for an hour. So you need the zest in there as well. And then pour it again through the sieve, and then put it into bottles. So I did sanitize the bottles beforehand, and they are put at the back of the fridge, not in the door, because the door has varying temperature, which, you know, I never even considered before. So it should last between 3 and 4 weeks, potentially up to 1 to 2 months if sealed well. So they've got like those swing pop bowls, and I filled it as far to the top as I could to get rid of as much air as I can. So you do need to kind of shake it. You can kind of like turn it into frozen ice cubes to like extend it even further. Grok suggests 50 to 100 mils worth of cordial plus sparkling water. So it's a 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 ratio. The other thing I did earlier, because I tested it earlier, is I added in like an extra drop of doTERRA's grapefruit essential oil. That kind of took it up an extra notch. But if you don't have that, it was still really nice anyway. I was just like, I wonder what it tastes like with extra grapefruit in. I really like grapefruit. So there you go. And then you can, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. It's up to you. Go crazy. So the benefit from homemade, so okay, to be careful with juicing, because you take all the natural fiber out, right? So you're going to get the sugar spikes. You're also putting loads of sugar in. So all of the drinks you see in the shops, they're all like no added sugar, no added sugar. But the reason why they're no added sugar is because they put like shit in there and chemicals in there, and it's chemical flavor. This is actual like vitamins, and it's bits of potassium, like it's vitamins and minerals in a glass, right? So if you're trying to find a like evening kind of drink for the summer, so I will probably have this 2 to 3 times a week, but because there's like a lot of sugar in there, but that's still nice, right? That's still a nice little treat. So just be careful, because there's a lot of sugar in there, but I don't have any other sugar. So but it just means that I have to work harder on my elliptical machine probably. But yeah, so I've just got some sparkling water and then poured it in, and it's yum. But it does say so Grok does say you can still drink the cordial fresh as well. So 30 to 50 ml straight, or you can dilute it down a bit if you want to, or you can use it as a mocktail base with soda and herbs. So it pairs amazingly with fizz, ice, or mint if you want to, but it was really, really nice. So have a look, basically. So what have I got? So I've got 7, what did I say? So I've got 750, so I've got 1,400 mils worth of juice. We've still got probably the same amount we could do lemon and limes, and we'd had like fresh juice before for a tenner. So if that was bottle green are about £5, and they're 500 ml bottles. They're not 750 mils, they're 500 ml bottles, and they're about £5 a go. So it's probably cost us about a quarter of what it would, with added health benefits, but also, just be careful about the sugar amount. So enjoy would be my suggestion. So do let me know if you have a go at making of like this one, or you kind of branch out, do a bit of investigation. I'm going to have a go at making like lots of them, and then see what they taste like, and then they're going to go in my cookbook, right? Because you can't, like, nobody ever remembers to think about like something to drink with your meals, right? So, and like if you have like a barbecue, like, and you're not drinking alcohol, and you don't want to drink like toxic shit, then you usually just start with water, and it's quite boring. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I look forward to seeing you back here next week, and who knows, hopefully like Trump has fixed the Iran stuff. Have yourselves an amazing rest of your week, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.